What's up, everybody? I'm Donnie Cash 818 here on this first episode, number one, of the Persist Green podcast. We're going to be talking about the company, mainly solar-based, but we're doing a lot of green tech, renewable energy, and I'm joined by Eugene Wilkie and Bottled Panshaw, and we're going to be talking about the basics, the outline, how we want people to get involved, how we're going to be different from other companies doing similar kind of things. So on that note, Eugene, take it away.
Thank you. It's great to be here and great to see you, Bedell, and great to see you, Donnie. Amazing team that we've been building here. Very impressed and very humbled. And I mean that sincerely. It's been amazing to watch. So Persist Green, we're building Main Street America. We're rethinking how economically you come at industry, and we're also thinking socially. So most of the folks involved in this, were a little upset about Trump, and were very vocal about it. And that social side spoke to me. I own companies and watching this. So when people started asking me, hey, Eugene, how do I get into this? I started watching what Wall Street's going through, what the oil industry's going through, and I said, you know what, we can do a better way. And so all of us started formulating how we could become an employee-owned co-op of stores. So, we collectively came up with the idea of let's do a game, a shopping game. So we're creating a new Fifth Avenue. You walk down our Fifth Avenue, you can guarantee it's going to be green and it's going to have social responsibility behind it. So, ours is the first store, of course. You're going to walk in for green products. But, at the end of the day, we want to fill this street up with America green. And we want that to be fed by the people instead of Wall Street. So the people will choose those products, and the people will choose whether we support those products or not financially out of this company. We're all equal sharers. So it doesn't matter if it's me or it's the guy that just walked in the door. We're all sharing this equally. There is a process that you have to work up to, and we'll go into that later. But this is for the people, by the people. Persist Green.
Well, I, for one, am super excited and, quite frankly, humbled that you wanted to get me into this. And I'm just, really enthusiastic about everything that we're going to be doing. So when you said a store, did you mean like a virtual store or a brick and mortar store or both?
So we'll start out with virtual stores. There will be one per zip code. So when you walk in, you're walking in and you're seeing people from your zip code that you can talk to inside that store. It'll also be staffed with a live person inside that store, just like a regular store. As we build this up, we'll start allowing people to build brick and mortars, as COVID starts dying down. So a person that's credit-worthy will start that store, and he'll start bringing employees in who will now start owning into that store, building up to be full owners. Once they're full owners of that store, they then start vesting into us of what we're doing, building Main Street America.
Excellent. And so I know we're going to be doing a lot of solar, but that's not all that we're going to be focusing on, though, right?
No, so solar's just, it has become a commodity now. So, we'll sell a solar package out of there, and a local electrician will come install it for you. We'll supply you names of people we've checked out, we think we trust. But at the end of the day, that's between you and the electrician. He'll install it for you. We've been in the industry for 30 years of doing solar. So we know what pricing looks like. And, I'm way less price in Washington State than the guy in California. We can even that out and start making a market out of solar instead of these spot markets that you've seen throughout the United States.
Okay. And I know there's a lot of solar companies, a lot of green companies doing God knows what. What are some of the ways that we're different and that we separate ourselves from those other companies?
So one side's the social side. One, this is employee owned, and it's a co-op of employee owned. This social side has me really intrigued in that, in just a very short time, we put together a company. I don't know how many people we have now, but this is amazing. And this was all manpower, women power, putting this together and not money. And that really intrigued me because usually I'd go, pay a lot of money for a package like we just put together. We didn't do that. Well, that tells me that we don't need Wall Street. You know, we'll start getting an income coming into this, and we'll use that income to start building this for the people, by the people.
As it should be. So now I want to get into kind of like the benefits and the pros and cons, if you will. So what are some of like the current energy technologies that are the most prominent? I know obviously oil and gas, but can you go into some details on that?
Sure. So, when you look at renewables, you've got your main players of wind and solar. So, wind's come a long ways. The technology, people talk about bird strikes, but we have technology that, mitigates a lot of that. If you look at the statistics, it's far larger number of birds that fly into windows than ever hit a windmill. And you're not going to get cancer. I've worked around in my entire life, and I've not got cancer from a windmill. Or a solar panel. I live next to a nuclear site that concerns me, though.
That's concerning.
Well, I actually like nuclear in the power side of it. I don't like the waste side. But when you look at power performance, what you're getting out of it, it's amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. If we could figure out how to cleanly do that, I'd be all in. But right now what we have is solar, and we have wind, and we have geothermal. We've come a long ways on this geothermal. We had several projects ready to go, and here came Trump. So, all those projects that we had before Trump were turning back on. All of us in the industry shut down because we knew there was no playing with them. Now that we have an administration that believes in what we're doing, we're going to go do it. But I'm not going to do it by myself this time. I'm going to do it with the people. I've just spent 30 years of learning this, and I'm going to spend the next however many years educating you on what I learned and let you go do it.
And I hope to be your A++ student, my friend, let me tell you. And so I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true, maybe you could help correct me, but that in the whole country, in the US, of all the energy that we're using, only 10% of it is coming from renewable and green sources. Is that true?
I think it's a little higher than that. I remember recently checking that, but that's really close. Understand what I was just talking about of all the projects that got tabled because of Trump. We would be up to about 15, almost 20% right now had it not been for Trump. Having said that, all those projects that I was talking about, we're turning them back on. And I would say within 2 years, you're going to double that at least.
Excellent. And so what's the impact that using these fossil fuel technologies in such large numbers as we are, what's the impact that that's having on us?
As far as the fossil fuel?
I mean, let me phrase that differently, I guess. If we keep using these old technologies for all of our energy, where does that leave us as a planet? Like, what's the impact of keep doing things the same way?
My attorney is actually an environmentalist attorney, and could probably answer that a little bit better. But I can tell you that, in my career, I tried to stay out of the environmental aspect of this because I'm doing business and I'm asking people that don't want to have that conversation for their money. We're in a different situation now. We can start talking about the environment and business again. So my thought on that is, if we were to continue the way we're going, I mean, we're in 10 years, we're in desperate situation. I mean, desperate. We're there right now, but in 10 years, the United States is going to be unrecognizable because of the weather patterns. We're seeing this increase dramatically every year. I don't know that that's all directly due to fossil fuel. I think that there's many factors into it, but fossil fuel is by far the biggest offender of it. It's really easy to fix. We have the technology to fix it. If we just, I see Elon Musk putting out these things. I got, $1 million if you come up with a way to start cleaning carbon out of there. Why? Just stop doing it. We have the technology to stop doing it.
Can I,
Always, it's always,
I'll take your $1 million and let's go put some solar in.
there it is.
can I add to that?
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah, so as you ask regarding the fossil fuels, so the main issue with them is that they produce too much CO2 or carbon emissions. What that reports to what that the resulting factor is that because of the lots and lots of carbon emissions, you have a depleting layer of ozone that increases your UV rays that comes directly from the sun, which ultimately results in melting the solar ice caps, which increases the sea level. We have cities like San Francisco, coastal cities like New York. In 10 to 15 years, they might not submerge completely, but they will there will be a significant rise in water that will, uh, it might not be recognizable as they are right now.
And that's a real
I,
problem.
I have several projects that I've scrapped because I banking on the fact that these spots that we picked are going to be underwater. So we scrapped the projects. I mean, it's we've watched the water level rise. If it keeps going, my project in 20 years is going to be underwater. So if I build it, I might get 5 years out of it, but in 20 it's underwater. I'm not making that bet. But my point is we're starting to see real world impacts of this right now. If we don't do something, but we're in real trouble. We can at least start. We can at least stop the increase that we're seeing. This increase has got to stop. Once we get that increase stopped, we can start working on lowering it. But at this point, just stopping it would have a huge impact. The rise in emissions.
That really brings to mind a phrase that my dad taught me. Once you've dug yourself into a hole, stop digging. And I feel like we just keep on digging ourselves in deeper. So I know
we have the tools now.
Yeah.
We absolutely have the tools to do this. It's a matter of educating America what those tools are. And that's what we're going to go do. I think there's probably 30 people now involved in this. We're here to educate America. We're going to change the way America looks at green. We keep handing people products expecting them to know what it is. And you can't, if I hand you a solar panel, how do you know what to do with it?
Exactly.
Not many people do.
And that leads me to my next question that I wanted to ask you, which is, what are some of the biggest obstacles to getting into solar right now, and what are some of the ways that you think we can overcome those obstacles and get rid of some of that red tape?
So, it's states. So, the laws in California versus the laws in Washington versus the laws in Nevada. Nevada's made it almost impossible to do solar because they taxed it. So, if we could start coming up with some federal guidelines of how renewable energy is treated by the states, I think that would help a lot. Incentives, until they take away oil's incentives, we have to have incentives. The minute they take oil incentives away, I want them to take ours away because we're actually less priced than fossil fuel.
So to me, that kind of sounds like the government's getting involved in picking winners.
There are fossil fuel incentives that are now 100 years old. That industry has existed on welfare 1,008%. If you count the incentives from testing for oil in that ground to processing that oil to into your car, excuse me, it's 1,008%. I think is the number that I last saw.
Wow,
that's welfare, man. That is welfare. These men and women have been getting filthy rich on our government. And think about this.
And killing the world.
In most places in the world, you're paying $10 real world prices for a gallon of gas. Here, we're so subsidized. What are you paying at the pump right now?
Like $3.50, I think. Last time I checked.
$2.49.
Okay, well, if it's $10, that's how much our government is putting in their pocket. We're paying them over that dollar, whatever that you just saw at the gas pump, is welfare. so that a guy can go buy a yacht while you work a job for 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is in your local area an hour. That's got to stop, man. It has to stop. And we can do that with this new industry. We can start building in how economics move inside this industry. It's new.
And this is not
it's
even
gonna
the worst.
Say that again.
I was saying that is not even the worst part. Like after, for instance, if they get a plant where they are doing the digging, right, doing the drilling for the oil, after a certain point, they will, if it's just let's say 20% left, they will sell that wells to some other company. So their hands are clean. They don't have to do the cleanup. So since it's now not their responsibility, it's the other company who is hardly able to get that 10% off. They see that okay, they are hardly making money, so they are again selling it to the point that it's the government's job to do the cleanup. All the oil they have spilled, it's the government's job to do this. They cannot force the corporations because they have already dissolved it to something else. So
Yeah, this has got to stop.
not only are they making exorbitant profit, but they are also not even doing their job in cleaning up.
Well, it's us that are paying for that. The taxpayers
Yep.
paying. If the government's paying for it, we're paying for it.
Absolutely. So this, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Donnie. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to kind of get into something I know you can pontificate on, which is what are the advantages of going green, going solar, over paying the water and power company to have your house, to have your lights on?
So, it depends on where you live in the United States and how much you're paying for your power. So, we're offsetting that power. So I'll give you an example. In our market in Washington, it's about a 5-year return on investment. So I go to the bank, I get you a loan. You're going to use your incentives from the state and your federal incentive of, I think it dropped down to 24% now. They keep dropping it on us. That was the other thing Trump did to us, was take our incentives and give more incentives to fossil. Anyways, with those, you pay that loan down in 5 years. Our solar installed has a 25-year warranty on it. So show me an electronic that is warranted over 5 years. We are warranting. No, you can't. So we're warranting these for 25 years. So you've got 20 years of free power. So instead of paying the power company, your child's college, it's you that figures that out what you want to do with your money. But it's money that you would have been paying no matter what. You are now putting it in your pocket. So it's avoided cost, and that's really hard to get people to understand. It's, when they came out with these really neat windows that heat didn't go through anymore or cold didn't go through anymore, it was really hard to explain to people that it was cost effective to put those in because of the amount of energy you saved. You're trying to sell something that is ethereal. It's cost avoidance, and it's really hard to sell. So I think as America starts talking about this is, what is avoidance on cost? What does that actually mean financially to me? Because it is absolutely a financial benefit. But it's really hard to explain that financial benefit because you're not getting a check from somebody. Everybody wants a check. The first thing they ask me is, how much is the utility going to pay me? That's the first question I get from customers.
And that's why the education is really so critical. And speaking of education, somebody who's highly uneducated recently said something about solar, where he said, "Oh, if the clouds in the sky, honey, I can't watch the TV." Is that accurate, or is he just yip yapping about something he doesn't know about?
He's yip yapping. Okay. So every solar system is connected to the grid. So you're not living on that solar. That solar is feeding into the grid. So that when you need that power, just like a bank, you withdraw it. So in the daytime, you're producing far more than you're using. So at nighttime, you can withdraw off the grid. The utility, once you get solar, looks at you annually. So in the summertime, I'm of course going to produce far more solar, right? So I'm producing a lot more solar during the summer months than I need to offset those winter months that I'm not. So the utility is, in essence, has become a battery. Having said that, we have battery technology that if the cloud goes over, you're not going to you're not living off those solar panels. Those solar panels are charging the batteries. So it's absolutely a fallacy.
That's what I thought, but that's why I have an expert like you here to clear that up. And, you seem very confident in the power of green technology, is, specifically solar. I know you've been doing this for a long time, but can you make a case for this is absolutely the winner? You know what? Let's cut that out, because I feel like that's not necessary anymore, that question. I'll chop this up. Unless you want to answer it.
I do.
Okay,
that's actually a really good question.
Okay, let me ask it one more time then, and we'll.
Okay.
All right. Go. All right. So I know you've been in the solar business for about 30 years, maybe more, and you know your stuff. That's very clear. But how is it you can be so confident that this is the way to go compared to what we've been doing forever?
So I'm looking at this as a holistic market. So yes, I've been in solar, but I've touched so many green products. I've lost count. Me and my partners, I've got an attorney that, that's what he does. And then he has me looked at just about everything because I've seen it all. I think that when you start looking at the market of green, clean, renewable products, we keep using this word solar, but solar is the very least of this, in my opinion. We're going to change the way that America is treating products. So you're going to learn about a product from top to bottom. You'll know that product. So I give the example of this. I do this other industry that's indoor growing of vegetables. They're basically lettuce farms inside of a warehouse, and it's stacked trays, and we can produce tons out of these places of food that we know has not ever gotten contaminated. Important for hospitals and medical fields, but I think we'll see this more and more a requirement from different places trying to be protective of their customers. And that goes back to this social thing, I think, is, do something that is socially unacceptable and see what happens on Twitter. I've been watching this last year. It's astounding me, guys. Somebody cuts up their videos on Twitter. Everybody knows who they are. And all of a sudden they're apologizing to America. I'm never doing this again. Well, I think this is the same scenario.
Case in the point near attendant today.
Absolutely. And so I know you said it varies from state to state, but the government they are the gatekeepers of letting new technologies in and keeping them out and whatever else. So how do we as a company navigate that battlefield, and how do we work with the government and also kind of work against the government in a sense, because they're working against us? How does that play out?
Well, this is interesting for me with the Biden administration. This is the first time. I was really hopeful under Obama, but I knew that man was facing some battles that, he didn't need us tapping on his shoulder every day. And it had nothing to do with government. It was the color of his skin. So when I look at what Biden has said, when I look at what Kamala Harris has said, when I look at what AOC has said, they have all said we're going this direction. And I'm trusting them. I'm believing them. I've worked with some of these government folks for a lot of years, and this is the first time I personally felt like I've been told the truth out of the Department of Energy. Having said that, prove it.
Yeah.
What I don't want to see is I'm not participating in this trade and air thing, and I think I've upset some people with it. Um, we're talking about involving Wall Street again. So you guys, do you understand what carbon trading is? So I'm gonna build a solar plant, and then because I'm not producing carbon, they're gonna give me what's called a carbon credit. So I now get, per ton of CO2 I offset, I get a carbon credit. That carbon credit is worth something, and here's what it's worth. Mr. Guy over there blowing smoke out of his stack buys my carbon credit to offset his blowing smoke into the air. I don't want him blowing smoke in the air.
So that's like one step forward, two steps back, basically. Because no matter what, when people are using those carbon credits, they're just, all the good that's getting done is just immediately outweighed or balanced out with doing the same thing again.
Well, now you've involved the process of Wall Street. So now you got to pay Wall Street's cocaine bill inside this thing. We're trying to get this price down and the money into the people's pocket instead of Wall Street's pocket. For every cocaine bill out of Wall Street, there's 100 people that would retire very nicely out of this.
True.
So, and that's how we're looking at it, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of Wall Street getting it, I want to retire 1,000 millionaires out of this per year or whatever it is. Let the people start that actually worked and did something retire as a millionaire. I believe that if you spent your life opening a door for somebody and you retire out of that, you should retire just as comfortably as I did.
That is a very...
Whatever you chose that was your life's work, that you were good at that, let's start rewarding America properly instead of Wall Street eating it all up and we get the crumbs.
And that's a very reasonable and fair way to go about business. And I think these companies that the greed has been like the downfall of capitalism, basically. Capitalism is not the problem, it's greed. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
No, this is a good conversation, guys, because I think this is the foundation of this company, to be honest. Because, Wall Street, environmental, and oil are like the three big things, And how do you address that? It's got to be a social action. And that's why, doing this company as a social action is what this company is. We are a social action. We're, instead of resist, we're persist. We are not stopping. We will get green into America. And, if this fails, you think I'm going away? I'm not. I got other companies. I'm still rocking and rolling, but I think that this is a really good idea. And I want Wall Street out of our game because paying their cocaine bill has ruined a lot of industries. I've worked 30 years with a lot of other very forward-thinking people like me inside this. I don't want to watch it disappear to Wall Street. I've watched part of it disappear to Wall Street, and they've destroyed it. The two largest solar companies that did it went to Wall Street, and they're dead now.
There is this rampant unregulated capitalism. Donnie, just today you shared a tweet where a girl had to submit her entire college fees in order to pay her mom's rent, if you remember that.
Yeah.
So that's the inequality in the amount of money that people have versus 1%. So yeah, I agree with Eugene here that this is where not only are we taking the social action, where people we are we are not having like $15 minimum. We are starting at 20. We want to make sure that people who are working hard and not just doing the bare minimum, they are working hard for the company, so that the company can also work for them.
Absolutely. You can't ask somebody in America anymore to feed their family even on $15 an hour. I mean, yeah. I'm surprised America's having this conversation, to be honest. You're talking about you could have an instantaneous middle class at 15. So the restaurants are saying, "Oh, we can't pay our workers." Well, if everybody's making $15 an hour, yeah, you can, because you can raise your prices at that point. You can start all these industries that have had to keep their prices down. The reason they've had to keep the prices down is because of this wage thing. So let the free market start doing this, get the government's finger out of there. And Wall Street. Wall Street has had so much power in this country.
Yeah, let's let this money trickle up. You know what I mean? Because it's not it's trickling down. It's not. That's not it.
Let's go back to this company we've started. Like I said, I'm not even sure how many people we got in this thing now, and a $200,000 package I would have paid to go do what we've done up to this point. So I really believe that America can invest in itself without involving Wall Street. You know, if some of this money needs to come in now to us, we've got enough members that, you know, we can pull out of our own pockets. It's not a big deal. I don't even think we have to do that, though. We're splashing out, and we'll already start getting an income into this by promoting this company and this social movement. So yes, there's a business behind this so that we can pay people to go do this, right? You can't ask people to go socially do this like we just did resist. You know, that was out of desperation. Millions of people spent hours online because it was desperation. If we can get America to understand how desperate times we are actually in, we are in a Trump critical position when it comes to the environment right now. And I've had my head tucked down doing business. So I've tried to stay out of this environmental thing until my people got involved they tried to push pipeline across the river. And suddenly I'm thinking about environmental again. I was doing Sundance out with the Lakota, which is a very, very sacred ceremony. You know, we're hanging off trees by hooks. And these people start talking to me about this and what's going on. And, you know, I go out there to get spiritual healing from my people. And they're telling me that the government is literally taking their land again from them. We had guys that normally are dressed in suits every day, sitting in boots out there, screaming our heads off. And you know what the government did when Trump got elected? He allowed the state governments to make it a felony for us to protest on our own land.
This was in South Dakota, right?
Yes.
Under Christian Owen.
They should be arrested. They should be arrested for what they did to those people.
Yeah. I remember there was a protest against it. What's that? Mount Rushmore. That's where the protests were happening last year.
So yeah, a couple of my friends got really hurt. So you know, Trump played a real sneaky game out in Indian country. He grabbed a couple big names out there and convinced them that he was the next best thing and he's going to help them. You know, 4 years later, they've maybe gotten a little bit done, you know, maybe 2% of what they wanted to do with him. And then ended up convincing a bunch of people to be supporters. They were evangelists out there. I've got a really dear, precious friend of mine that under normal circumstances, this guy and I we could move mountains in Indian country. You know, he's got that real warrior look to him. And when he speaks, people are like, ugh, guy turned Trumper on me. It blew my mind. So I think that, you know, as we're looking at the social side of this, guys, this isn't just impacting environmentally. You know, there's some real life situations happening from the fossil fuel industry that are threatening people's lives. When you turn your tap on and are scared to light a lighter because you'll blow your house up, something's wrong. And that's happening across America. People don't understand, when you start drilling into the ground and you start going sideways, is what they're doing on this fracking, you're now hitting pockets of gas, and that gas is releasing into the atmosphere. So out in the Dakotas, where they've been doing all this oil drilling, you know.
All right, well, this has been like super educational and fun for me. I can't wait to keep learning more. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up this first episode?
No, thank you so much, guys, and thank you for listening to me. I know I can go on sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, that's why we got you here, man. We love it. Otto?
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Really, I'm really gonna enjoy working with you, brother. Thank you, and Bedell, you too.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing, both amazing men.
Thank you, sir, and right back at both of you. So I just want to do some shout outs. Make sure you check us at persistgreen.com, twitter.com/persistgreen. See us on all the socials. Want to give a nice clap up to Good Pillow Company. Just got started today. I love to see what these guys are doing. William Legate and David Hogg. Gonna probably make a much better pillow and one that will not storm the Capitol. So hey, win. It's all good. I really cannot wait to do this again. Hopefully we can do one once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. But it's been a really good episode. Val, you look like you want to say something?
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Rob as well from Louisiana. Rob, good to see you, man.
Absolutely.
So, shout out to Good Pillow. I'm seriously impressed with what they just did. They are doing the same thing. They're using social experience to go change the world and make a social statement. And I just I love that. I don't know anything about their company. I don't know anything, really about William. I've heard some stuff and I like it so far, but what they did really impressed me.
Same here. And I'm glad you brought up Rob Bottle because we are looking forward to having him on here. I know Eugene's going to go on his podcast at some point, but I really like him. I like what he stands for. I like what he's about. And I'm looking forward to speaking with him sometime in the near future. So on that note, I will say...
we had one more thing, Donnie, is I just want to say we do have a list of some pretty great folks that are going to be on this podcast. So stay tuned.
Love to see you. Stay tuned. Get your popcorn ready, all that. And so on that note, I will say goodbye, adios, auf Wiedersehen, and we'll catch you next